It was gnome time, that delicious time of the month when Phyllis hefted her rucksack and took off in her Fiat Punto on her liberation mission. She'd always completed meticulous research before setting off. First she used Google Street View, trawling the streets for the initial gnome sites. Once she'd identified a potential target, she would drive to a street a quarter of a mile away and park. She would then walk past the target gnome garden to confirm her monthly mission. Sometimes her reconnaissance resulted in her having to abandon her choice and concentrate on a new target. Phyllis usually only took gnomes that were on their own in a garden, so if she found that there were other gnomes in the garden, she would know that they had company and didn't need rescuing. Occasionally, if there was evidence that the gnomes were severely neglected, she would liberate multiple gnomes from a site. She always wrote copious notes on the security lights and cameras, the fencing, the potential presence of dogs. She always knew in advance how the gnome was fixed to the ground and came suitably equipped for the removal. Of course, no one could suspect that the little old lady walking their streets was casing their garden. Hers was a selfless mission, not some frivolous, drunken student escapade. Her rescued gnomes weren't posed in some bus shelter or thrown over a police station wall. They were afforded somewhere that any gnome would dream of. Phyllis had created a secret valley behind her isolated cottage where they could enjoy a genuine community, a full, free gnome colony. Over the decades, she had saved over 200 gnomes of all shapes and sizes, concrete, plastic, stone, composite. She didn't discriminate. They were all God's creatures. Tonight's adventure went like clockwork. Parking the car at 3:13 a.m. in a secluded corner of a cul-de-sac, the 5-minute walk round to Blackstone Gardens, the thrill of excitement as she slipped her balaclava over her head — there was CCTV in Blackstone Gardens — the nimble hop over the token fence, the slow, careful route through the shrubbery round to where Norman, that was the name she'd given to the new gnome, was waiting for her. His fishing rod dipped in a dismal little pond with netting over it and a couple of aimless goldfish ignoring Norman's rod. It was off with her rucksack, out with a sharp knife to prise Norman away from his plinth, then pop it in the rucksack and tie the drawstrings, before swinging the rucksack onto her back. She knew exactly how much Norman would weigh, because she'd studied the catalogue many times, and she already had liberated several of Norman's brothers. She crept back through the shrubbery, her heart beating a little faster. This was always the dangerous part. Until she'd liberated the gnome, she could always claim that she'd absent-mindedly wandered into a garden by mistake, but the bulge in her rucksack and the vacant plinth by the pond would be harder to explain. Phyllis made it out to the pavement safely and swiftly moved off down Blackstone Gardens. She always returned to her Fiat by a circular route, and it had always worked. 10 minutes later, she was motoring down the A661 at 45 miles an hour with Norman safely tucked up behind her. It was a 40-minute drive home, but it was worth it. Norman had a full life to look forward to in the secret valley. She talked to him all the way home. She had a lot to tell him about his new home and all his new friends. "You're going to be very happy, Norman," she said. When she got home, she washed Norman tenderly, then took him out of her back door, down to the secret valley. She fondled his little red cap as she laid him on the spot she prepared by the tinkling stream. "There you are, Norman." She indicated another gnome with a green cap who was fishing the stream next to him. "This is Jeremy. He's ever so nice. You'll get on just perfectly, I know." Phyllis went to bed tired but happy. She was already thinking about next month's adventure. There was a lovely little stone gnome in Pontefract. She'd already given him a name, Peter Potter, and she was so looking forward to meeting him face to face. Next morning, her doorbell rang just before 11. After her late night, she hadn't finished breakfast. It was two embarrassed-looking policemen. Good morning, madam. Would you mind if we had a look in your back garden?" "Why, is there an unexploded bomb or something?" "No, madam. It's just that there was a robbery in Wetherby last night, and we have reason to believe that the robbers have hidden the stolen item in your garden." "That's ridiculous," Phyllis spluttered, but the policeman had already moved round the side of her cottage. One of them was holding a laptop computer out ahead of him. As she padded after them in her slippers, Phyllis racked her brain as to how this could be happening. She'd been so careful. No one could have known where she was last night. As they entered the secret valley, one of the policemen looked back over his shoulder at Phyllis with a look of astonishment. In front of him spread a panorama of Gnome Nirvana, populated by little people dressed in all colours of the rainbow, fishing, digging, laughing, playing musical instruments, and engaged in a host of other improving activities. "They're amazing, aren't they, Constable?" Phyllis beamed proudly, but inside she was uneasy, even though no one could prove how she'd come by her gnome colony. The policeman with the computer was ignoring all the other gnomes and seemed to be homing in directly on where Norman sat happily fishing in the stream next to his new friend Jeremy. "They're all very happy, you know. They're never lonely here." The policeman with the laptop stopped and pointed to Norman. "Does this gnome belong to you, madam?" "Of course he does." Phyllis drew herself up to her full 4'11". "Why ever do you ask such a strange question?" "It's just that a gnome answering to this description was stolen in Wetherby last night." He bent down and tipped Norman on his side. He pointed to a small metallic pouch on Norman's underside that Phyllis had missed in the dark. "You see, madam, there have been so many thefts of gnomes that people nowadays have been microchipping them with homing devices. Perhaps you'd like to tell us about where you acquired all these other gnomes." Gnome time was well and truly over.